All right, so welcome back to 3.2 as we're going to talk about the major components of an ecosystem. And so, just kind of a quick refresher, we had talked about energy in the last section. And just so you have an idea, again, we get energy from the sun, and that's high energy, high quality energy. And as it moves through the ecosystem, it changes from high quality to low quality energy. And we don't want to keep using that low quality energy because it's not going to keep feeding us. So that it comes in as high quality energy in solar radiation, it goes through our ecosystem, and we usually lose it in the form of heat. And eventually that low quality energy leaves us into the space. So let's talk a little bit about the definition of ecology. Ology is the study of, so this is the study of organisms' interactions with each other and their non-living environment. So ecologists are going to study the interactions within and among organisms, populations, communities, ecosystems, and biosphere. And so that's kind of the level of organization of ecology. We start out with the individual organism. A group of organisms create a population. Different populations form a community. So, and then a community has different populations within it. So you could have, so if we started out with an organism, let's say we would look at a tiger, a group of tigers would be a population of tigers living in the same area at the same time. And then within that area, there also might be certain insects, there could be certain birds. We put them all together living in the same area at the same time, and that's a community. We can put a bunch of communities together that tell us this grassland is an ecosystem. And then all of the ecosystems that are grasslands would help make up the biosphere. And there's many different types of ecosystems. We can go even further down, and we can look at the complete level of organization from start to finish, and we could look at the smallest unit of chemical properties, and that's an atom. You put a group of atoms together and create a molecule. A group of molecules together create a cell, which is that fundamental structure of life. Many cells together create an organism. Again, and then you put a whole bunch of organisms together, and then you get the same species living in the same place at the same time, which is a population. A community is populations of different species living in a same place and potentially interacting with each other, so in the same place and same time. And then an ecosystem is the community plus the non-living environment of matter and energy. So that includes the water, the temperature, it's the amount of sunlight. And then you put a bunch of ecosystems together, and that creates the biosphere, which is the part of the Earth's air, water, and soil where life is found. So within that ecosystem, we have living and non-living factors. So we have biotic factors, which are living. So if we look at this particular diagram, we can see that we have producers, which are plants. We have rabbits, fox, trees, and we even have bacteria. All of those things are living things. And then we have the non-living things, which is oxygen and water and carbon dioxide and minerals and nutrients. And all of that together create an ecosystem. All right, ecosystems have several important components besides what we just covered. They have producers. Producers are also known as autotrophs. The word auto means self, so they're self feeders. Troph means to feed. So there's different trophic levels within an ecosystem. The autotrophs are the producers, they self feed. Most of those are going to be autotrophs in which they do photosynthesis, and that's the equation for photosynthesis, in which they take carbon dioxide and water plus sunlight and turn it into glucose, a sugar, and oxygen. There are other kinds of producers out there. They're chemotrophs. They actually get their energy not from sunlight, but the geothermal vents found deep in the oceans. And they may not necessarily use carbon dioxide, they might actually use a sulfur product. Then you have consumers, which are heterotrophs. And there are a number of different consumers. There's primary consumers, which are your herbivores. They're the ones that are going to eat the autotrophs, or the primary, or the producers. Then you have secondary consumers and tertiary consumers. Secondary consumers are going to consume the herbivores. So you're probably looking at flesh eaters as well, so carnivores, some omnivores. And then your tertiary consumers are going to be your higher level, like your orcas and your tigers and your hawks, in which they're probably only going to be carnivores at this level. All right. Carnivores eat meat. Omnivores eat plants and animals. Examples of omnivores would include pigs, rats, and humans. Some examples of producers I probably should have covered too. We have some trees. You have algae. You have phytoplankton that's found in the oceans as well. Also, some other components. We have decomposers. Decomposers' job is to break things down and release their nutrients to the soil. Examples of decomposers would include bacteria and fungi. Detritivores actually feed on the wastes and dead debris, so dead bodies of other organisms. Examples of detritivores could include earthworms, vultures, and insects. So in a natural system, there's very little waste of any of nutrients in nature. However, when you add humans, we tend to leave a lot of waste behind. All right. So here's just kind of a breakdown of what detritivores and decomposers could do to a tree and over time. So at the beginning, you can have some longhorn beetles dig holes into the bark, and they're going to leave their larvae. Bark beetles are going to come in and start cutting and engraving the bark. You're going to find some carpenter ant galleries digging holes as well. Termites and carpenter work. You're going to have a fungus come through, and eventually it's going to break that wood down into a powder. The powder is broken down by decomposers into plant nutrients in the soil. And again, those decomposers could include fungi. Within the ecosystem, organisms get their energy in two different ways. They'll either do aerobic respiration, in which they use oxygen to turn glucose back into carbon dioxide and water, or they're going to be anaerobic, in which they don't use oxygen. And so that process would be fermentation. Instead of giving back off of carbon dioxide and water, they would actually give off methane gas, ethyl alcohol, acetic acid, or even hydrogen sulfide. Acetic acid is like a vinegar product. So again, the components of an ecosystem, we have a lot of that comes through here. We get our atoms, our chemical nutrients, and they usually come through those producers with that solar energy, and those plants take that up. We get the producers, then get eaten by consumers, and those consumers could be eaten by other consumers. And again, they're going to eventually die, and we're going to break them down, releasing their nutrients back into the soil. At every step of the way, that high quality energy, that solar energy that came in as plants, we start to break that high quality energy into some low quality energy. And that is just given off as heat in various steps of that ecosystem. We're going to stop here.